Anyway, the interview for the North Melbourne Football Club was on the 4th of March, 2:30 in the afternoon. Put my best suit on, and I went there with my briefcase and all my documentation and dossiers on why they should pick me to be coach of the North Melbourne Football Club. It was at a director's office over in Brunswick. There were 13 people around the table, and I walked into the place and I thought to myself, gee, this is a daunting proposition. But I remember one bit of advice, Ron Evans, who was president of Essendon in 1992 and AFL chairman. And I remember after one game in 1992 sitting down talking with him, and he was at a big business, a strong business in catering and a few other areas, Spotless Group. He said, doing a lot of negotiations, and I asked him, and he said to me, Dennis, the line I always use, and you want to make sure you're not too authoritarian or too dictatorial, but the line I always use, I control the is, gentlemen, would you like me to open the batting? So I sit down, go into the North Melbourne director's room. As I said, it was over in a factory in Brunswick, and people were a little bit at ease, not knowing how to interview an AFL coach, because they'd never done it before either. So anyway, there's a lot of small talk, and they sat down. There's still a lot of small talk. With that, I thought of the Ron Evans scenario, and I said, gentlemen, would you like me to open the batting? And with that, I jumped up and said to them, can I walk you through my dossier? So I gave everyone a copy of it and walked them through it. It went for about an hour and a half, and I went away from there and I thought to myself, gee, that went pretty well. But I also knew that Dermot Brereton and Rodney Eade had to be interviewed. Fortunately for me, Dermot Brereton pulled out of the interview, decided he wanted to go into the media, so it was just me and Rodney Eade. And nothing happened on Friday. I never heard anything from the club, but I just went straight back to training at Essendon. We were playing. I was coach of the reserves. We were playing the next game. It was the last practice game. Didn't think much more about it, whether I was going to get it or not. Sure, I was very toey and hoping I'd get that phone call, but Friday night nothing happened. Woke up Saturday morning and I said to my wife, this isn't going to work out, I don't think. But you know, I was happy coaching the reserves. I never thought, even though I was desperate to coach at senior level, I didn't have a big name or wasn't a high profile player. And anyway, on the way to coaching Essendon Reserve, I got this phone call. It was about, I suppose, 8:20. It was the football manager of the North Melbourne Football Club, Greg Miller. He said to me, Dennis, you got the job. And I thought to myself, I was that excited. Pulled into the car park. We were playing at a Skinner Reserve Sunshine against the Western Bulldogs. I pulled into the car park. I was the first there. I thought to myself, what do I do? Do I tell the clubs that I've been appointed North Melbourne? And Kevin Sheedy was great. I'm sure he probably knew about it. So I walked in there, and each club has their own little, how should I say, urges or helpers around the place. And there was a wonderful old gentleman at Essendon. His nickname was Wedgie. Nobody ever knew his real name. You could always tell Wedgie what he had for breakfast, because he was always down the front of his pullover. And I said to myself, what do I do? Do I tell Wedgie and say, Wedgie, you coach the team? Or do I stick to my own professional code and do it myself? Well, after what I thought, gee, I can't give it to Wedgie. I'll continue as I'm Essendon reserves coach. And I thought to myself, as before anyone else came to the rooms, in the history of VFL football, how many people would have held dual coaching positions with one club and another club at the same time? That wouldn't happen too many times. So I went through my whole process. By half time, the media were all around the place, TV cameramans. I can remember Kevin in his own little way saying to me, Pagan, looks like you got yourself a job. And it made me laugh, and I said, Kev, what do you want me to do? It's half time. You want me to continue? He said, finish off what you're doing here. So we finished off. My heart was jumping out of my chest, 3/4 time addressing the players and talking to them about what to do, and all the cameras were out. And it's a suburban ground, the Sunshine Football Ground, and I don't think my feet touched the ground. Here am I, and I said thank you to the directors and thank you to Kevin and for giving me the opportunity. Virtually finished up on the spot. Thanked the Essendon players, they were all great, they wished me well. Travelled to North Melbourne, and I sat down in the office, and Greg Miller came in and he had a manila folder. And he put it on the desk, and I thought, gee, there's going to be something exciting inside this manila folder. We talked for half an hour or so, and he said, well, this is the side for tomorrow. You can change it if you want. You're coach now. And I said, well, leave it as it is. And he left, and the practice game was at Tatura, which is up in the northeast of Victoria. And the game's on tomorrow against Geelong, Malcolm Blight's side. So Greg went, must have been, I suppose, 6:30 in the evening, and you think from the Wednesday afternoon to when I was asked did I want to apply for the job to 6:30 on Saturday night, it just flew. You know, the whole thing was a bit of a, I suppose, a blur. Anyway, I looked in that manila folder, opened it up, and what do you think was inside it? Absolutely nothing. So I went home, got myself prepared. Was up, a good friend of mine who still works at North Melbourne drove me to Tatura, and we played Geelong. And I can remember walking into the rooms, a lot of the boys that I'd coached at under 19 level had been grown into men now, and they thought I was a pretty hard taskmaster and demanded a hell of a lot. And I wrote 2 or 3 things on the board. Might have been get the ball in quickly, play on from marks and frees in the midfield every opportunity, corridor forward to centre, and deep entries. And we put that on the board, and we spoke pretty briefly about the boys. We didn't make too many changes to the side. And we went out in the ground, and there was probably country football. There were 15,000 there. It was amazing. First game, even though it was only a practice game, makeshift coach's box, only 6 feet above the ground, and people yelling and screaming. And I thought, well, this is going to be terrific. This. I can tell I changed my tune 50 minutes later. At half time when we came off the ground, we were something like 10 goals behind. Gary Ablett was on fire. He was playing on Ben Buckley, and poor Ben didn't have the best first half you could imagine, and Gary Ablett kicked 6 goals to half time. We went back inside again, kept it simple again, same instructions, play on quickly from marks and frees in the midfield, corridor forward to centre, deep entries, take your opponent on. Well, after half time, we got right back into the game, and Malcolm Blight in his wisdom said Gary Ablett had done enough for the day, and Wayne Keary, I think he kicked 5 goals himself after half time, and a very talented Indigenous footballer, Adrian McAdam, kicked 3 or 4 himself, and in the finish there we only got beat by 6 points, and everyone was excited, and it was just amazing after the game, sitting down. It's probably the biggest lesson you learn in coaching football teams. If you're building relationships and got real strong unity with the people who you work with, the players, the board, the CEO, the football manager, you've got a real chance. And I look back, and we went and had a few beers after the game, and I look back now and I think the chemistry of that group that started on that night or that Sunday at Tatura really held together, and chemistry plays such a good part, and unity and honesty and respect with each other were critical, and had just a wonderful time at the Kangaroos for 7 consecutive grand finals, preliminary finals, 3 grand finals, 2 premierships, 2 pre-season cups. It was just sensational stuff, and I look back now and I say to myself, how did you ever let that pass you by? But that's life. Politics get to us all in the finish, and it was time for me to move on. I went to Carlton, completely different football team, and I'm no longer coaching.